Vavala by Secretary Bhatt, and from DelDOT, Don Weber and Mark Alexander, Bill Thatcher. And a lot of the DelDOT team is here with us. And let me start by once again expressing our appreciation to the great work by the men and women of DelDOT, those out on the road, as well as those who are working on the vehicles here, as well as members of the state police, the National Guard, our emergency response personnel, and everybody else. So the Delaware Emergency Management Agency activated its Emergency Operations Center at 8 o'clock last night, and it's working along with other emergency response agencies across the state to monitor conditions caused by the winter storm and to take appropriate action. I want to thank everybody who is there and working collaboratively. So we're now expecting snowfall totals of about 4 inches in Newcastle County, a little bit less at the very far north of the county, 6 to 8 inches in Kent County, 6 to 8 inches in Sussex County. The National Weather Service's winter storm warning remains in effect through 4 p.m. today. We're making progress, but we expect conditions to be hazardous throughout the day. As I mentioned last night, the rain that preceded the snowfall meant that we could not effectively pre-treat the roads with brine because it would have just washed away. Now, in addition, temperatures are expected to continue to be well below normal throughout the day, likely dropping into the single digits in much of the state tonight. And that poses an additional challenge for the roadways as snow continues into the afternoon, and the ice below it is a major concern. And we're also not expecting any help from the sun today, even when you've got freezing temperatures. If the sun is out, that can help in particular areas, but we're not expecting any help from the sun today. So the most important message for the people of Delaware this morning is, again, to avoid travel if at all possible. And if you do have to drive, please be extremely cautious and leave plenty of extra time for your trip. A state of emergency with the level 1 driving warning remains in effect statewide. That means that any person operating a motor vehicle must use extra caution. Non-essential employees, regardless of whether employed by a public or private entity, are encouraged to stay off the roadways when a level 1 driving warning has been activated, unless there's a significant safety or health or business reason to drive. It appears that people have generally been heeding this warning. We're grateful for their cooperation. And less traffic's not only safer, but it also gives the folks from DelDOT the time and the space to apply salt efficiently. And I can assure Delawareans that the state's salt supply is sufficient to meet our projected needs from this storm. As of a couple of days ago, before this storm, we had gone through 77,000 tons of salt this winter. Our initial focus has been on the primary roads like 95 and 495 and Route 1. DelDOT crews have done a great job once again of limiting snow accumulation, but particularly after the rain last night, there does remain a thin layer of snow and ice on more than 50% of I-95 and on the majority of our other roadways, making the surfaces slick. Turn lanes and off-ramps are especially problematic. We'll continue to do all we can to keep these roads as safe as possible and to clear the snow as quickly as possible. And because of the rate of the snowfall, it'll be some time before we can meaningfully address secondary roads that are covered with snow and ice. Some secondary and minor roads may not be attended to until the snowfall stops later today. DelDOT is responsible for more than 13,000 lane miles across the state, so we do ask for everybody's patience. Transit service is operating on a Saturday schedule in Newcastle County, and there's no inter-county service in Kent or Sussex counties. Moving forward, we're constantly evaluating whether any changes need to be made to the current state of emergency and level 1 driving warning. We encourage employers to do the same and not put their employees in any harm's way unnecessarily. However, we still do not have plans to put in place any further driving restrictions which would prohibit people from driving if they've not been deemed essential, no matter their individual situation. These kinds of restrictions should be reserved for extreme cases. I know that with all public schools closed today, there's also been a lot of concern about the high number of school closings this year. We understand that districts are in a difficult situation trying to make up this time. Some have already announced plans to extend school days, and the best solutions will be different across the state. Our Department of Education is closely monitoring each district's circumstances, and we know everyone wants the same thing, which is to maximize the learning time for our students in the most appropriate way. A final reminder, motorists who travel should use extreme caution as weather conditions may change rapidly over the course of the event. Remember to reduce your speed and increase the following distance between vehicles. Allow ample time to reach your destination. Use headlights as appropriate to increase visibility. If you do have vehicle problems, you ought to stay with your vehicle, as freezing temperatures can be life-threatening. Be sure to have an emergency kit in the vehicle consisting of a blanket, bottled water, a snack, a cell phone charger, flashlight, and flares. With so much accumulation expected, residents should use caution when they go outside to clear sidewalks. Stay hydrated, dress in layers, and take breaks in order to avoid injury, exhaustion, frostbite, or hypothermia. Please check on your neighbors, especially the elderly and people with disabilities. We are regularly updated by the National Weather Service on the forecast and its impact on our state. This morning already at 5 a.m. and again at 9 a.m. we were updated. We're going to use this information coupled with updates from various state agencies and local municipalities to keep residents informed via news.delaware.gov or dema.delaware.gov, and we'll also be active on social media. I hope, for everybody's sake, that this is the last one of these briefings that we're together for this winter, but I'm not making any predictions that is so. So with that, I do appreciate everybody coming out, and we'd be happy to take any questions you may have.
One of the things that I heard is that DelDOT's actually sharing salt with Newark now. Newark's running real low. Can you comment on that? Because you guys, I heard, are getting more from Baltimore today.
Yeah, so we actually have a couple of sources of salt that are coming in. We have a ship that is supposed to be docking at the Port of Wilmington on March 6th. That I think has about 15,000 tons. We have received a request from Newark. We've received requests from a couple of hospitals. We're trying to be good neighbors and sharing with people. However, we have to maintain our primary focus. So we're actually in communication with Newark right now to see what's the sort of the minimum amount that they can get by with.
Anybody else? Yes.
Governor, can you comment on the budget? DelDOT is reporting, we've spent $13 million in snow and equipment. I mean, are you concerned about that?
I am concerned about that. We have, in fact, as you suggest, so far, before the storm, spent $13 million on snow removal, 77,000 tons of salt, 80,000 hours of overtime. This storm will only add to all of those figures. And, basically, every dollar we spend on snow removal, we budget about $3.5 million a year for snow removal, so we are well in excess of that budget. Everything that we spend on snow removal essentially comes out of our capital program. And so it is a concern. Of course, we have a whole separate initiative now where we're trying to make additional enhancements in our transportation system. So the budgetary issue is a concerning one, but we also don't have a lot of choice. I mean, we do have to clear the road so people can get to work and get to their doctor's appointments, so kids can get to school and the like. So, I mean, this is just something that we have to do. We're going to have to pay for it, and but it's not like there's no cost to it, because it will come out of other monies we need to spend.
What sort of factors will you be looking at as far as lifting the driving restriction?
In terms of the driving restriction, very much rely on the guidance of the state police and on the people at the Transportation Management Center. The Lieutenant Governor and I will be going, I think Secretary Bhatt will be going there next to the Transportation Management Center and really getting their input. So we talked, as I mentioned, at 9 a.m. This morning. They've urged us to keep it in place for a while longer. And so we think that that's the appropriate thing to do, so we're not in a position to lift it yet. We do encourage people to go to DelDOT's website. I think it's DelDOT.gov, where we do have cameras all over the state. I've been up since very early this morning, amongst other things, watching these cameras to see what the traffic is like and how well things are moving. This is an incredible service that anybody can log on to if you have internet access. And so it really gives you a good sense of where things are. And I think if people feel like they have to get out there for some reason, again, if you don't have to get out, we're encouraging you not to, but it will give you a sense of how traffic is moving.
For people who aren't from here, can you describe the conditions? Just describe what it looks like outside and what it's like outside right
Well, I'll start, and then I'll ask Secretary Bhatt to add in. I mean, I came down this morning on 95. There's still 95 is one of the obviously a very important roadway. It's usually one of the first to be cleared. There was still some coverage of 95, and I think that's an indication that there's still a lot of work to be done across the state. Some of the secondary roads and the minor roads really at this point have not been touched, and so that's the way that DelDOT does it appropriately. They focus on the primary roads first, and then they get to the others. But I'll let Secretary Bhatt add to that.
I would just say that I think the governor hit it on the head. Our primary roads right now, I think as I was driving north this morning to get up here, it's track bare. So that, there's places for people's tires to be, but as you try to get off on an off ramp off of one of these primary roads, it's going to be slippery and you see people braking. If you get off the main roads, there's a layer of ice with snow on top of it, so it's slick. I know the governor was talking to the state police this morning. We've seen a few accidents, but it's sort of commensurate with an event like this. So I think it's pretty much a regular winter event that people need to be cautious. They need to slow down and take extra time.
Anybody else?
I'm sure they're supposed to drop down to single digits.
Yes.
What sort of concerns do you have about that?
Well, I mean, I think people need to be cautious. Obviously, extra cautious, not just about the roadways. This is why we do encourage people to look in after their neighbors, particularly the elderly or people with disabilities, to make sure that that they're okay. We do expect that temperatures will get back to normal later in the week, which I think will be a relief to everybody. But we do expect, as you say, single digits, tonight and into the morning. Thank you all very much for coming out. Appreciate it. Thank you again, everybody.
I kind of got lost in nowhere, but I thought you said to stand up for something. I know. Free safety.